It's used for making graphene supercapacitors. My friend and I, we tried to. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to episode 2. We made it. Alhamdulillah.
We made it.
Yeah.
After 2.5 hours of setting up.
Hey, the things we do for y'all. Alhamdulillah, though. But yeah, today's topic is social media. Let's just get into it. When did you first get into social media? Like, how young were you?
First time I think I got exposed to social media was 4th grade. So that's kind of when Instagram first came out.
4th grade.
Yeah. And I think at that time it was just like posting. So you would only like meet with your friends and you could follow each other. There was no algorithm. There was no like stories. None of that, right?
You're old.
Oh my God. There were no stories at that time.
There were no stories, I guess. I mean, I got into Instagram when I was 13, so I don't remember this whole phase.
Yeah. So middle school.
Yeah.
You. Yeah. I think that's around the age lots of people get into it. I just got exposed to it pretty early on. But really all of my friends just posted like pictures of puddles or something.
Yeah.
So it wasn't actually that. It wasn't anything bad. But I had to leave it for a little bit because my parents found out. But then I got back on it in middle school and around 7th grade. And then after that, stayed on it from 7th grade all the way up to like high school and up till now, actually. And I took a hiatus like last year for about 6 months. And that was the biggest break I've had from social media. But in general, I was always more like creating content rather than like ingesting content. So I think my view was a little different about social media.
That makes sense.
But nonetheless, I was still ingesting content and it was still like a part of my life, still affecting me. So,
okay.
What about you? When was the first time you got on social media?
I made my first Instagram account when I was 13. So I made like my email when I was 13 because that's like the legal age of making an email, stuff like that. So I made an Instagram account. The reason I made it was just because like I wanted my friends to follow me. I mean, you know how it is. Like when you're in middle school, you want to be popular. You want like people to like you. You want to have a lot of friends. So I just did it so like I could get like more people would follow and more people would like be friends with me. It was. I think that's something that's like carried over into like the reason why a lot of people use social media at a young age. The reason why it starts at a young age is just to be connected to your friends, to the people who are using it. But other social medias like. I mean, Snapchat, I guess I had like a small stint with Snapchat. It was just because a couple of my friends didn't have Instagram, so that's the way we talked. But then other than that, like I feel like it's died out for me by now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting because a lot of people say Snapchat's like the one app they use the most.
Oh yeah.
And I sit there and I'm like, How? Like text message does the same thing Snapchat does, but I can see the reasons. So on that matter, I think it's important to note like the main social medias. So we have like Instagram. Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. But I think out of everything,
YouTube is not really a social media, I feel. So I think we can kind of put that aside.
We can talk about it another day. We can talk about the information of YouTube and how much information there is. That's true. We could talk about YouTube in the context of the internet.
Yeah.
But as far as social media goes.
Stay tuned for another episode on YouTube.
Stay tuned for another episode. But as far as the context of social media for sharing as a platform, sending your friends things, interacting with other people, a one-on-one type of thing. I think the primary social media is used by college and high school students would definitely be first either Instagram,
Snapchat, and I think Twitter is the big one that I personally don't use, but I feel like a lot of people who are into like politics or into like tech news, they follow because like it's social media, but it's also a news platform. Yeah. On some level. So.
And the only thing that I think kind of has died out a little from our generation is Facebook. Yeah. Although people still use it. But I think we're going to concentrate on like Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, but definitely Snapchat and Instagram because I think those are the ones we can talk about in the context of Islam in the modern day as well.
For sure.
So let's get into that. Let's start with Instagram.
All right. Okay. Instagram. What's your relationship with Instagram?
So usage wise, I should probably cut down a little.
Okay.
I genuinely think, spending an hour and a half a day is a little bit too much for me, for personally. Like I get overwhelmed if I'm on there for more than an hour and a half.
Gotcha.
I think it's when you're on social media past a point of like trying to ingest information. It's when you get stuck there. I think when people get stuck on social media, that's
on the explore page.
TikTok. Oh my God, we forgot about TikTok.
Let's switch out Twitter with TikTok for now. And then honestly we can do all four.
Yeah,
all four. Let's do all four.
We can do all four. Why did TikTok pass my mind? I think it's because TikTok is such like a staple part. Yeah. I think TikTok. Okay, we're definitely gonna talk about TikTok.
We gotta talk about TikTok
and Snapchat.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Twitter if you have time.
Okay.
But so starting with
Instagram.
Starting with Instagram, I think my relationship with that is it's a lot better than the relationship I have with say TikTok.
Okay.
And I feel like because TikTok traps you a bit more, but on the Instagram end, I think at least the content that I'm trying to push out or ingest now deals with bettering myself. So I feel like it works as like a positive, net positive kind of thing. But the dangers of Instagram is being exposed to ideologies and things that are a little bit too crazy,
Yeah.
like a bit too far.
Yeah.
And as you get older, that becomes less of a problem because you're more cognizant and aware of those kind of things.
And
but
you've kind of developed a sense of like your own principles and values too.
exactly.
Yeah.
But at a young age,
Impressionable.
You get hit by those things and you're very impressionable. And if that much information is coming at you on a platform like Instagram, where every single image you scroll past, especially with the modern ads and algorithms, which didn't exist in the past, those are going to make an impression on you. And if you interact with it, the new things that will be presented to you after that will be even more impressionable, because that's how good the algorithm is. Like that's what we call the algorithm, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
So my relationship isn't so bad. I'm working on it. It's gotten way better.
Alhamdulillah.
But I think I started out rough in high school. I think a lot of people started off rough in high school.
Yeah, I second that, honestly. Like, I think when I first made Instagram, it was fine. I was just talking to my friends, followed a couple of people that I knew like personally, and like they'd post once or twice like a year, if that. But I think when I got to high school, then I'd follow more people. Like, obviously, like high school involves a bigger pool of people too. There's more people to know. And then I guess the explore page comes along, and then once you're on the explore page, it's over, man. Yeah, it's over. Like, you can just scroll forever, and it's just like you said, the algorithm's so good that it presents you with such a vast amount of information that you don't even need sometimes, and that influences you. Yeah. So I think honestly, like linking it back to like Islam, I guess, like we talk about, I think in our last video also talked about how like surrounding yourself with good people. Yeah. Like saying like back in like before the age of like phones and things like that, like the main sources of information you got were from the people around you. So you surround yourself with good people. But now you have to also understand like the things that you consume. So consuming good things. Like there's I was talking to one of the sisters at the MSU yesterday, and then we were talking about like the content that we consume. There's the whole thing about consuming good things, like consuming not just like, okay, there's consuming halal food, there's consuming there's drinking good things, like they're staying away from drinking. Check out our last video about that. Staying away from drinking, consuming good air, like staying away from smoking, things like that. But there's also the consumption of the eyes, consuming good things when it comes to like what you're looking at, what you're believing in, what you're hearing. Like these are all things that influence your body, and they're all things that influence your mind. And our bodies and our minds, those are an amana from Allah. They're not ours. Like people will say like, oh, it's just like, it's my body. I can do whatever. I can do with it whatever I want. It's my mind. I can like look at whatever I want. I can think whatever I want. But as Muslims, we're taught and we understand that our body is a gift from Allah, and it is not just a gift, but it's a trust. That's the word that's used. It's a trust from Allah, which means that we will be asked about it on the Day of Judgment. What did you do with your body? What did you do with your mind? What did you do with the eyes that Allah gave you to see? That's why we also talk about how people who cannot see, who are blind, or people who cannot hear, who are deaf, there's a burden that's relieved from their shoulders by Allah that they don't have to answer to that. But because Allah has blessed many of us, alhamdulillah, that with the gift of sight, with the gift of hearing, it is our responsibility. And I think, and that's something I have to remind myself all the time too. It's like me, myself, I'm guilty of it too. I have to remind myself, like, what am I looking at? What am I hearing? Is this good for me? If Allah asked me on the Day of Judgment, you listened to this, or you looked at this on social media while you're just scrolling, mindlessly scrolling, you looked at it, like, that's something that we have to account for. That will be something that will be in our record. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's the dangerous part of social media. Especially, we can transition this to TikTok too, because Instagram and TikTok are similar in this way. Very. As you're scrolling and as you're moving down and as you're going through these photos, you're being exposed to something that you don't know what will appear. Exactly. And the thing is, the human brain is a curious one. So most of us look at what we're going through, and if we're exposed to an idea, like we were talking about earlier, we might end up going back to it. And it's basically the concept, like on a day-to-day basis, we're taught to monitor our gaze, see where our eyes go. The danger is when you have an app like on your phone that you're going through on social media, there's Instagram or TikTok, there's less of a risk of either being caught or either like looking at someone or doing different things. And that's a danger in and of itself. Yeah. Right. And so the crazy thing is, like, when we're scrolling through social media and TikTok and Instagram, we don't have those guardrails anymore of being outside and in a public space. I like the word guardrails that you use. Yeah. The guardrails are gone. You're in your private, you're in your room, you're by yourself. You can be scrolling through whatever. And there's no eyes on you except those of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's where the concept of like having, what's the word? It's knowing that Allah is always seeing you. It starts with the. I just can't remember the word right now.
We'll come back to that.
We'll come back to it when I remember the word.
But like understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always has eyes on you.
Yeah.
Is I think the key to monitoring yourself on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying the answer is go and delete all. I don't think the answer for me is deleting all this social media. Like we can do a lot of good on there.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of good things people can do. I mean,
we're doing this through social media.
We're hopefully doing this
Inshallah.
to positively impact someone's life.
Yeah.
There's good you can do on social media. I don't think the answer is deleting it, but constantly giving yourself a reminder as you're scrolling through social media, Instagram, TikTok, what I'm viewing, what I'm laying my eyes on.
Yeah.
Even if no one else in the world knows it. Even if I'm in my room by myself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. And hold yourself accountable to that degree.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, that's the essence of just what that's the most important thing we need to be cognizant of when we're looking at social media. And there's the other thing I want to bring up is zina of the eyes. Like we talk about zina, obviously, like zina, it's a word that means it can relate to relations with people of the opposite gender. That's like the most baseline. As far as I know, I'm not a scholar, so I don't exactly know what the word zina itself means. But like we would talk about like, okay, so there's like physical zina. Don't need to get into that, but like there's that. There's zina of like just talking to someone, touching someone of the opposite gender. Like those are all sins. But I think something that we forget that there's also zina of the eyes. And even if we do remember that, we think, okay, zina of the eyes is maybe like you're checking someone out while they're walking by, or you're looking you're physically looking at someone, looking at something like someone that you shouldn't be looking at. But I think there's also something that's important to know is like when you're on social media, like you said, you never know what's going to come next. Which I mean, our brain craves that. There's so many psychological studies done on the endorphins, the dopamine, the serotonin that's released when we are on social media. It's literally the same as doing a drug. The brain chemistry and the MRIs that we look at, they're pretty much like that. But because you don't know what's coming, you can't. There's no guardrails. So when you're looking at it, you could very well the next time you just scroll up or scroll down, the next thing you'll be looking at is something that you shouldn't be looking at. And even if you say you scroll past really fast because you're like, okay, maybe that's something bad, your brain's curious. It might go back to see, oh, was it really bad? Maybe I can just scroll back up. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe it was just something that I thought was bad. And then now you're looking at it a second time. The second time you look at it, that's a sin.
Sure.
It's scary. Like I honestly like,
and it goes both ways. It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
It's also not necessarily like when you're scrolling through, but it's also what you're putting out, right? So I think that's a bigger thing that I can talk about is like what kind of content are you putting out, and what are you posting about yourself? Yeah. Because there's there's a modern day concept of social media being a bad thing because it's a highlight reel of everyone's life. Yeah. Okay. And that's another topic that we can go into another time. But that's one way of viewing social media and what's being put out in a negative way. Yeah. The other way that I have begun, and this is something I'm working on. Like I'm definitely not near anywhere where I want to be. I've worked on like the social media thing for a while, and I realized how many mistakes I've made. And I'm trying to like change those and implement those things in the future. So one thing that I've definitely focused on more when making this type of content is when I put a piece of work, whether it's art, photography, a photo of myself, whatever it is, when I put it out, I make sure there is no hidden implication or meaning behind the content itself. So similar to when we're ingesting content, we ingest in a manner and we understand what the creator is trying to tell us. Yes. Because that's what social media is all about, is what story are you trying to tell? Yeah. I've begun to realize that photos and the videos that you put out, the photos and the videos that you put on social media have to be done with intention. So if you do put something out there, look at the intention behind it. Not just posting it, but what will it give off when someone views that, right? And that's where I feel like a lot of the problem comes in modern day as being Muslim and like guarding our eyes and, controlling that nafs and all that kind of stuff is that we are ingesting content that doesn't have a pure intention behind it. And I think that's a big, big problem when it comes to creators from that perspective. So one thing is when you're again, it's a very hard thing. I'm not saying go delete all your social media. That's the answer right now. Yeah. Don't delete all your social media right now. Like that. Let's talk a little bit about that too. I think one thing we both want to say, I hope I'm speaking on behalf of both of us when we say this, is like social media is a tool. It's a tool. Tools can be used in good ways and bad ways. Inshallah, with this podcast we're doing it in a good way, but like it can also be used in a bad way. But that doesn't mean that we get rid of the tool. There's so much good to be done with the tool. But, if anything, you should be taking the tools that exist and that might not be working for us in our favor right now, and utilizing that tool to make it work in our favor.
Yeah.
It's not something that you have to run and be scared from. And arrogance is mentioned in Islam as well.
Yeah.
Like arrogance is not a good ideology to live by.
Yeah.
You have to understand the reason why you're doing these different things. You have to understand, why do I believe in Islam? You have to understand, why should I be proactive about the way I'm interacting with social media, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, or Snapchat. And so from both the creator and the ingesting point of view, I think it always comes back to intention.
Yeah.
What is the intention of putting this photo out? What is the intention of posting this video? And when it comes to ingesting stuff, it is going through it knowing that with the intention of, I'm trying to actually gain something from this, and a positive net positive.
Yeah.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching me when I'm going through social media.
Yeah.
And if you can remember those two basic things, that is great groundwork to start with.
For sure.
When you go, at least for me. And
Yeah,
that's the personal thing.
I 100% agree with what you said. And I think like the first thing you talked about, like just having a good niyyah. Like I think that's like the foundation of Islam. The foundation of Islam is having what intention do you go in with. Even like saying the shahada. Like when we say the shahada, the niyyah that we have is what gives the shahada validity.
Yeah.
Like anyone can say the shahada, but whether you say it with the right intention, whether you say it as if you actually believe, that's what gives it validity. That's what gives it value. That's what makes you a Muslim.
And that's key on social media.
That's key. And then the second thing is what you're talking about is like the intention of the intention that you have of putting it out there. Like you said, some content on social media, bro, like there's no use for it. It's useless.
Yeah.
And the thing in Islam is that like wasting time is a very bad thing. Just no, even when we like say I'm scrolling through Instagram, that's a waste of time. Like I'm not like, sure, I might gain something out of the 100 posts that I see. I might gain like something from one post that I see, but I wasted so much time. And that's something that you're gonna have to be responsible for your time too. We talk about how we're gonna be responsible for our bodies, we're also gonna be held accountable for the time that Allah gave us. The time that Allah put us on earth is finite.
And that's something that we all like have trouble with.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I 100% have trouble with it all the time. Yeah.
And it's such an easy gateway because that time is in a way meaningless, and that's why it makes us feel so relaxed.
Yeah.
Like it kind of is like an escape from our own
SubhanAllah,
reality.
yeah.
And as college students, as high school students, when you're stressed out, escapes from reality are sometimes helpful.
No, for sure. Like if I'm feeling overwhelmed with the work that I'm doing, or if I like get a bad grade on a test or something, and I come back home, I'm like, I don't feel like doing anything.
Yeah, and but we should.
Phone comes out, Instagram opens up, just scroll.
Well, we should be replacing that either with time,
reading some Quran,
making some du'as, going out on a walk, doing things like with the blessings of life that we've been given.
Yeah.
All those kind of things, going outside, breathing in the fresh air.
Yeah.
Going for a run, for a jog. Like those are my personal avenues that I personally take. But there's a million other things that you can do than pull out your phone to escape reality. Yeah. And the thing is, that's the issue. Social media, TikTok, Instagram, you escape reality. When you go out for a walk, or you run, or you make dua, or you pray, you're not escaping reality. What you're doing is you're healing yourself. And I think that's the big difference. When there's natural ways to go about certain things, you got to realize, what does a certain thing do to me? Is it making me escape from reality, or is it healing me? And if it's like social media and it's making you escape, you're only damaging yourself more.
I love that.
But if you're going into the healing process, you're not only recovering, but you're making yourself stronger for next time that same hardship arises.
That's crazy. Gold right there. Yeah. No, for real. I mean, that's 100% true.
That's what I personally think. Yeah.
And I mean, like, also we talk about, you're talking about how like using social media as like to escape reality. Like say when you're at a low point, like sometimes we'll just pull out our phones and just scroll. There's a danger to that too. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally tells us that when you are in trouble, when you are in need, you turn to Him. So turning to your phone, like it may seem benign, and trust me, like I'm not like coming out here like, oh, I don't do this, like I'm pure or whatever. I'm saying that like even I do it. Like sometimes I'll just it'll be a long day, bro. It's gonna be a long day. You come home, you're tired, you pull out your phone, just scroll. But realizing that like when you are in need, when you are at your low points, when you are tired, when you need something, you turn to Allah. Yeah. And when you turn to your phone, that's like you're not doing it intentionally, and it might seem benign, but it can be a form of turning away from Allah. And that's like there's a big danger in that. And that's something that I have to like, that I myself have to be cognizant of. It's something that I forget all the time. It's like when I turn to my phone, I'm turning away from Allah.
So that's a great way to quantify Instagram and TikTok. Yeah. Because the content there is pretty similar. It's content produced, content ingested. Yeah. What do you think about content, or what do you think, not content, what do you think about social media when it comes to like Snapchat? Because that's a different argument.
It's a different type of social media.
It's a different type of social media. We can't say, yeah, okay, sure, maybe it's an escape. But it's not like mindless. I mean, unless you go to like the story section and you go through, but I don't know how many people actually use Snapchat for that reason. I do that. Okay. Fair. I don't. But I think, but Snapchat's main, usage is was not made for the like news, even though that's been catching on recently. Snapchat's intended usage was this like a photo video sending app between people, and there's various people who say there was created for different reasons. We're not going to go into details of that, but as a functionality tool, what it does is you can take photos and videos, send it to people, and you can receive photos and videos, send it to people, which is different than Instagram and TikTok. So that same argument that we were just talking about ingesting mindless content and going through that stuff, it doesn't hold when you just look at the sending videos and photos and receiving videos and photos portion of Snapchat. So I want to know, first of all, when you were exposed to Snapchat.
Snapchat. When was I exposed to Snapchat? Okay, I didn't have Snapchat for a good chunk of time. I think like I made Instagram in 8th grade. 9th grade, I went through 9th grade. I went through 10th grade. 11th grade was when I like started like making a good amount of friends, getting to know some more people. So I think 11th grade was when I made it. And I only made it, like you said, like I never made it for the purpose of ingesting content. I made it because like there's some people that I talked to who maybe didn't have a phone number yet. Because there's some people who just didn't have phone numbers yet. I didn't get my first one until I was like in sophomore year. So like some people didn't have a phone yet. Some people just use Snapchat because it was easier for them to use it. And like they like the functionality. But there's also danger in that, in the sense that like the reason some people use it is because they delete your messages automatically.
Yeah.
Snapchat it's crazy.
Is one of, see, when it comes to Instagram and social, I keep saying social media, but what I mean is Instagram and TikTok.
Okay.
When it comes to Instagram and TikTok, the content you produce is viewed by anyone who's following you.
Yeah.
And for the most of us, it's a lot of like, it's a decent amount of people, like above 100.
It's semi-public.
If you have above 50 to 75 people on your Instagram, typically, it's decently public.
Yeah.
So the content you're putting out is different. With Snapchat, you can communicate with someone one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I think that's where things get really dicey and tricky and dangerous as well. Emotionally, mentally, and spiritually / religiously.
Yeah.
And my personal experience with Snapchat, I think I first got introduced to it in high school, was pretty toxic because the one thing with Snapchat that allows you to do is become friends with you can add people in your grade.
Yeah.
And it was it became a common thing really quickly to just send photos of your face. Like the streaks and all that kind of stuff. Streaks. So holding streaks was a whole thing of its own.
Oh yeah.
But
we'll get into that after.
We'll get into after this. But like the main issue with Snapchat, in my opinion, was the ability to easily communicate via photo and video. And that comes back to what we were talking about Instagram and TikTok about shielding your eyes and being wary of your eyes. Yes. And the type of stuff you and your friends would send each other, and it allowed for the comfortability level between people to change.
Yes.
So I got I was pretty comfortable talking with guys and girls all throughout my grade because it was just the norm.
Yeah.
And that was something I was exposed to, and I didn't consider like a thought behind it. I thought this is just something we use.
Yeah.
And so Snapchat was like in a way toxic for me. And
then you get into like the whole idea. I mean, obviously gender relations like a whole other video of its own that we'll make sometime in the future. Sometime way in the future. But like thinking about, like you said, like everything starts off benign. I think everything starts off benign. Like it's like I can't text, so I'll just use Snapchat. It's photo, video. You're just sending it to one person, another. But I think the sitch there is that like it deletes itself. There is no accountability. Like even if you screenshot, someone knows that you screenshot it. So I guess there's that. Like I think honestly, like I don't know why Snapchat was built, but I think like the way it's being used now, the purposes of it being used is secrecy and to hide things and just to hide communications. And if you are hiding communication, first of all, that implies that there is a reason for hiding that communication, which enters very dangerous territory. And it's just it's scary. It's scary to think about.
Wouldn't feel guilty unless there was a reason to feel guilty.
Yeah.
And there's no and if your intentions are pure, I can see Snapchat being used as a pure
it definitely can. But I think just the fact that it deletes itself and the fact that you're using it for that specific reason.
Yeah, it's the nature of it that's dangerous.
Exactly.
So the nature of it isn't exactly it's not predisposed to make us do the right thing.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Yeah,
I think all social media isn't predisposed to make us do the right thing, but it can be used for the right thing. A great example of social media like Instagram and TikTok being used for a positive purpose is like Yaqeen Institute, which is like an Islamic foundation started by like Umar Sulaiman, and they do a great work, and that's a positive impact. But I don't believe that social media inherently now has it taken on this form that I don't think is doing the net positive for most people. And that's why even from a non-religious standpoint, people are catching on to this social media is bad for our kids. Like it's negatively impacting some
even
people.
The non-Muslims,
mental health wise, emotionally, like kids being exposed to it too young. anxiety problems. Like there's a million different things.
And if you think about it, like the whole, I mean, obviously like mental health existed way before social media, but the fact that like mental health cases rose upon the onset of social media, and as it got younger, like there's so many like psychologists who comment on this about how once social media started taking hold, like it's literally taking hold. It's taking a hold. It's leeching on our lives. And once it's taken a hold on our lives to the point where almost everyone in society is on it. And as people get younger, that means that I guess that's a good segue into something else I want to talk about is the social media is built for you to get the approval of people.
Yeah.
It's built like I said, like I made social media because I wanted more friends. I wanted people to like me. I wanted people to follow me and to like be friends with me like that. I'm literally seeking out the approval of people. And that in and of itself is a very scary thing in Islam, because the only being you should be seeking approval from is Allah. Allah's approval is the one that's going to get you into Jannah or Jahannam. So,
and on this earth, when we can understand and we can do, we can get negative approval from our friends. We can get like shut down. We can get bullied. We can get hate comments. Canceling. There's a million different things. People might not like your post, and you might take that as like a negative thing.
Yeah.
When you pray and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I know this from my personal experience. I'm not sure if anyone else has had an experience that is negative when they pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I don't hear a negative feedback.
Yeah.
I don't feel a negative feedback. But I know from social media, you can get targeted. Things come at you.
Yeah.
So, and that is actually a really good point, because that applies to Snapchat too. You get approval from Snapchat. What if someone doesn't snap you back? What if someone doesn't send a photo back?
Someone breaks your streak.
Someone doesn't put the same energy into the Snapchat that you did on Instagram. Like, is this person liking my posts? Have they liked all my posts? Have they viewed my story? Are they viewing my story?
And the analytics that you can get out of it too. Like some people like pay for the analytics too, and like it's
the fact that you can pay for approval.
Yes.
Is a whole nother mess.
Oh man.
Like the fact that you can post a video.
Yeah.
And then advertise it for $15 and get an extra 5,000 views, thinking you're more connected. Like, that's mind blowing.
It is. It really is.
And again, it comes back to your intention.
Yeah.
If your content's intention is pure to help people in some manner, in some form.
Yeah.
And you really have to like dig deep into like, why am I putting this out? Why am I making this?
Yeah.
If your content intention is there and then you use it to advertise with the money to reach a wider audience, I can see you utilizing the tool for a better cause.
Yeah.
There is justification to be made. But if you're just using that to gain more views and followers because it makes you feel better, training yourself to do that is a problem. Because if you train yourself to get the validation of others and that's how you value whether you're worth it or not, whether your content is worth it or not, is a problem. So even if you're making good, pure intention, like content, like say like productivity videos.
Yeah.
If you're making productivity videos and then you're like advertising it and paying money to have a wider reach because you want to impact more people. Yeah. Then your intention is to impact more people. Yeah. And that's a good thing.
It all comes back to the niyyah. Like the way you start something is going to hold, it's going to be the way that it finishes out. Hopefully, inshallah, with the help of Allah. Obviously, if you make the intention that I'm using this tool for reasons that are good and pure. Yeah. And I am going with Allah's help and with Allah's strength and the strength that Allah has given me, then inshallah, like everything will go good. But like you said, like even the content that you put out, the reasons why you're going on it, every time you open an app, like why are you opening that app? Is it just to waste time? If you're wasting time, then like there's no use. I
think we've all I am so guilty of this. I've trained myself to just open my phone and open Instagram.
It's right there.
I feel like we all have to ask ourselves before we Instagram. Yeah. Why are you opening Instagram? Like, dude, what is the purpose?
When I change that location of my app, sometimes it messes up my whole thing.
I think
my fingers go there all the time. Yeah.
It's a great technique to do. Yeah. I think people should switch up their home screen all the time.
For sure.
Because it makes you realize like, oh, I'm actually looking for something.
Yeah.
And you're like, what am I looking for?
Why am I looking for it?
It becomes less of a routine just to open it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, so coming back to that, like, okay, so let's say you make a productivity video, which is a decently, neutral kind of video. Like it has no pros and cons. Like it's just
there's things we can talk about. We'll make another video on productivity and all that too.
Yeah,
but
100%.
For sure.
But let's create a piece of content that's let's say it's a neutral piece of content. Okay. I don't know what you would consider that. Yeah. So you have a neutral piece of content. Your intention to share and grow it is to impact people. Positive thing. I understand that. Yeah. If you create a neutral piece of content, but your intention is to get as validation, it's a negative thing.
Yeah.
And that's the danger of social media is inherently it's not designed to make us do the right things, in my opinion. But it can be used for the right things. However, at the same time, it's so difficult
It
to
is.
remind yourself
It
of the
is.
intention. Hey, I want to use social media for good. I want to use it in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I want to do it so I can like positively impact people. And again, I am guilty of this.
Yeah.
I think on more times than
Me
not,
too.
I'm not reflecting enough about why I'm using social media. And what am I putting out on social media?
It's such a passive thing that's part of our society. It's just you go on it and then you look and then that's it. And then you never actively consider why you're doing something. And that's something that Islam teaches us as well. Like we shouldn't be living our life passively. Like I have to remind myself all the time. Like okay, I'm walking somewhere right now. Like why am I walking here? What am I doing while I'm walking? Like we're even taught in Islam to like while you're walking up the stairs to make a dhikr, while you're walking somewhere to make a dhikr. Like Allah should be on your mind at all times. But sometimes whenever we enter social media, we're entering a state of passiveness. We're entering a state where we are not in we're in control of ourselves, but we're not actually in control of ourselves. Like it's like when you open that app, you just scroll, but you never know why you're scrolling. You never know why you're doing what you're doing, and that's something that's very dangerous because you're entering away from the realm of Allah and you're entering away from the realm of being aware of what you're doing. And that in of itself is like it's almost an intoxication. Like it's not intoxication, but like that's why we say that social media, the brain chemistry and everything that happens is similar to a drug.
Yeah.
It's just so passive.
And it's like it's expanding past social media because of technology that is coming out now. So it could be social media, but now like, the cell phone itself is just turning into this thing that you can lose yourself in.
Yeah.
And I mean, the greatest example is we're walking down college campus. This girl's on her phone just walking. Okay, so I'm walking down, like I'm skating down. I'm skating. This girl's on her phone just walking.
Yeah.
Probably on social media or something.
Probably, yeah.
And is totally unaware of what's going around her. And she walks right into the like street like in front of a car. And the car has to brake. And I see this and I'm like, wow, that girl could have just been hit in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did you not realize? Because she was so lost in her phone. Now, maybe she had a reason. You know, maybe there's a valid reason, like someone called it an emergency, etc. But you see that way too often.
Yeah.
People are getting lost in their phones and their social media. They're becoming unaware of what's happening around them.
Exactly.
And I definitely did that more often before. I've definitely gotten a little bit better with that side of things. I think reminding myself of the intention when scrolling through social media is something I could do better. But the first thing, I think the first step is just making sure you're aware that you're on the app.
Yeah.
Like you pulled your phone out, you're
awareness
doing something.
Awareness is the first step of anything that we're doing. Just being aware, even when you're doing salah, like having that khushu, having that awareness that you are in salah, that I mean, if you know the translations to what you're reading, then like that increased. Like we're taught that knowing what you're doing in salah, having the khushu, having the understanding of what you're reading, that improves your salah and that gives you more hasanat. So in the same way, having awareness in our life is better for us because it makes us more understanding of why we're living life, why we're doing what we're doing, and each and every single action that we do should be for the sake of Allah. But once we enter a state of passiveness that we do in social media, we're away. We're going away from Allah. We're going away from our deen. We're going into a state where we don't really have any control of what we're doing. We're just doing whatever.
Social media causes us to like lose ourselves.
Quite literally, we lose ourselves. We lose what makes us human, and that's understanding what we're doing. That's knowing what we're doing. That Allah tells us that what separates insan from animals, like what separates humans from animals, is that we do things for a reason. Not specifically for a reason, but we have the ability of free will and of thought, that we are able to think, that we are able to understand what we're doing, and able to pursue goals and things like that. The complex thinking that we have when we use social media, that goes away because we're just scrolling. And there's been studies done on it too about how like when you're using social media, your brain it lights up in different areas than when you say are doing a math problem or you're doing something that requires more concentration.
You're doing a sport,
or even when you're going for a walk,
like creative sport, anything like.
Even going for a walk, you would think that's passive, but it's not, because when you're going for a walk and you're not on your phone, you're not passively walking. You're looking at where you're going. You're watching every step. You're looking around. You're embracing the creation of Allah. Versus when you're on your phone, you're very passive. Your brain completely switches. And I think that's the most crazy thing to me, is that like there's a physiological change that happens.
Yeah.
And that just shows us why it's important to be cognizant of what we're doing.
Yeah. And it's hard to say that this is, it's hard to say it's wrong, because it's
not wrong, but it's just something that we have to be aware of.
We have to be aware of it. It's dangerous. It can be dangerous.
It can be.
But it all comes back down to, again, like we said, the first step was awareness.
Yeah.
And after that, it's, implementation. How can I implement these little things, these little reminders? And I think that's something I worked on. I think that's something like most of us try and work on. as you become more aware of it. But the first step is definitely awareness and realizing, hey, this is something that is impacting my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we ignore a lot, especially
do.
you know, as children. And like and the thing is, it was dangerous for us.
It's even more dangerous now.
It's even more dangerous now. And like we were growing up when it was all coming out, and now it's at a point where like imagine if we were in middle school or elementary school and the Instagram we were exposed to was what's out right now.
Bro, I don't even want to think about that.
Do you know how much information would be like pounding in my head as like a 7th grader?
Oh, like when I had Instagram back then, like even though it was only like 4 years ago, it was very different than what it is now. The algorithm's gotten so much better at putting things out, and Instagram has new features. It's just so easy to consume content that you don't, even if you don't want to consume it, it's just in front of you. It's right there.
It's right there.
SubhanAllah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
I was a little sad.
It was.
I'm not gonna lie. I got a little sad on that one. Because the thing is, like, when we grow up, our children come into this world,
inshallah, one day,
what is going to be the state of social media then? Like, we're going towards this like metaverse and this like whole other conversation of that is a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
So much more high level than what I think we're ready to talk about. But it's going to be more immersive.
Yeah.
And that we know that is the intention of the people who are creating it.
It is.
And in some ways, that immersion can be positive.
It can be.
It can be. It can be used positively. I don't think the right answer is to try and like fight against it and like try to shut it down, because
I think also one thing to realize that Islam is a practical religion. Islam wasn't made. I was listening to a talk by Umar Suleiman actually, and he was with a bunch of other scholars. They were having like a conference session. I forgot which one of them said it, but they were talking about how Islam is a practical religion. Islam wasn't given to the Arabs of the time of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam just for them. It was given for Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his ummah. And we are part of his ummah. That means that this religion is still practical. It is still relevant to everything that goes on today. So that doesn't mean that like we're supposed to live as they did back then. We have technologies, we have tools that we should be implementing in our lives, but we should be doing them understanding that everything we do is for the sake of Allah, and understand that everything that we do should be to come closer to Allah and to make sure that we are staying on as-sirat al-mustaqim. I think that's why it's important. Like thinking about like the metaverse and VR and all that. Like it's gonna get more immersive. Like it's the goal of the corporate people behind Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all this is like you said, to make it more immersive. Is to get us more entrapped into their products so they can make more money. Yeah, but
it's a capital. Again, we fail to ignore we live in a capitalistic society.
We do.
And while that, hedges forth progress and innovation and a lot of things that can be used positively, the progress and innovation in medicine is very due to capitalism.
It is.
And that just happens to be the reality of the world. And see, positive things can come out of it sometimes.
It can.
But in this context, the capitalism drives money-making strategies. It's why computer science is a major in college that gets paid well.
Yeah,
it's because they're looking for people to develop these types of technologies that are going to get people engaged. And so while it's not wrong of us to engage and to learn about these things, coming back to the whole awareness thing, because we have to remain as cognizant and aware of it as possible, especially with the future technologies coming out, especially with us teaching the younger generations. Because our parents, at least my immigrant parents, so
me too,
anyone who has immigrant parents, didn't really know social media. Like it was a new thing when we were growing up in America. So it definitely was not a new thing back in Pakistan or India or something. But it will be something that we have to teach.
It will.
And we can't fail to ignore that it is something that we're going to have to deal with. Like social media is something we're going to have to teach our kids how to handle through an Islamic lens, because our parents never went through that. Their parents never went through that. This is something brand new, and that's something we have to be aware of. And if we aren't, it's going to be even more dangerous for the generations that are coming below us.
I 100% agree. Like our parents, alhamdulillah, they did the best they could with the situations they were given. But it's also like, once again, coming back to responsibility and accountability, because Allah has put us in a place where when inshallah one day when for those of us who have kids, who want to have kids, that we have the responsibility that Allah put us in a situation where we went through the pitfalls, where we went through the time in which social media was a thing and we understood it. It is now our responsibility to pass that on. It is a responsibility that Allah has given to us, and it's our responsibility to pass that on to the younger generation, to bring them into this tool and help them use it in a way that can in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah. That's scary.
It is. It's so scary.
I'm scared. Like, now that I think about it, it's a kind of scary thing. Like now that I'm really starting to think about it right now,
Bro, I mean, I was scared of social media beforehand, but just talking about this with you on this podcast, man, it's
freaking me out
once
because
again awareness.
yeah,
Now we're talking about it, we're becoming more aware of it too.
yeah. I mean, I was going to come into this podcast thinking I knew what I was going to be thinking,
Same.
and
Like
I have
I wrote down a bunch of notes. I thought, okay, we're just gonna go through it. We're gonna be done, but
yeah.
subhanallah.
And now I'm really thinking about what is the situation that's going to be presented to me later in the future with the younger generations, not just like my own kids.
Yeah.
Maybe like kids
In your community.
in the community, the mosque. And when I see them around their phones, I'm going to be looking at them like, this is a big thing.
Coming back to that, I look at, like, when I go to the masjid, I look at the kids that like, I've known these kids since they were young.
Yeah.
Like I'm a couple of years older than them. So I've seen them grow up, but there's a shift that happens. There's a turning point. Like I know when these kids made their social media, and they follow me because why not? So
Yeah.
they follow me, and then I I know them before social media, I know them after social media, and there is a difference.
There was a difference in me.
Such a big difference.
When I first downloaded social media, like I changed everything about myself.
Yeah, no.
Because social media is a highlight reel.
And you want the approval of other people, and you want the validation.
And more than anything, I wanted my life to be a highlight reel all the time.
Man.
And that was so dangerous for me. I wanted my life to be, my
that.
personal life wanted to be Instagram all the time. So how my stories looked, all that stuff. And that's why I think about a year and a half, 2 years ago is when I finally realized, okay, this is what social media is in your life.
Yeah.
Take a break. So I took 6 months. It extended to about 7-8 months. That was it was so weird because believe it or not, before that period of time, I used to like have, panic attacks, anxiety. Like I would be sad, I would be angry. And it's not only due to social media. I think I worked on myself a lot during that time period. But a big social media, the moment I deleted it, and the moment I got over the fact of not wanting to just go open the app, like my life got happier. I was just a happier individual. Like I don't know why.
MashaAllah, bro. Proud of you.
And then I think, okay, if that was an effect on me, there's no way there's no other people in the entire world who are going through the exact same thing. There's no way that kid in the mosque is going through the same thing.
Yeah. No, for real. There's something I want to talk about is like, there's something called the spotlight effect of psychology, and how we all like put social media aside. Just us as humans, when we're talking to someone, or when we like are in a group setting, once you go back home, don't you like think about like, oh, what did I say something that was weird? What are people gonna think of me? That we live our lives thinking that the whole world revolves around us. That's what we think. We think that everyone's eyes are on us and everyone's scrutiny is on us when we're talking to people. Now multiply that times like a million when you go on social media, and your eyes are on every other person's life across like thousands of people. And now the spotlight effect of psychology is multiplied a million times fold when you think that the whole world's eyes are on you. And you want, like you said, you want to be a highlight reel. You want everything to be perfect. And even like the non-Muslims talk about it too, about how like the spotlight effect of psychology and all this, like this is a big thing. Like we want our lives to be perfect, and like life isn't perfect. We talked about that in the last podcast too. Life isn't perfect. This life is a prison for the believer, and a paradise for the disbeliever. Like if our life's not going to be perfect all the time, we're gonna get, like you said, we're gonna get sad. We're gonna be mad. We're gonna be happy sometimes. That when Allah wants us to be happy, and we all live on Allah's accord. Like we cannot say that we control our lives so much to the point that we can have a highlight reel out there of just perfection.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
And social media feels like social media makes us feel like a highlight reel of our life all the time is possible.
SubhanAllah.
So it's a dangerous, scary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to like one last thing about social media as a general thing, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. And a lot of what we said can be applied to other social media platforms.
Yeah.
It's not just limited to those three. I just think those three are the ones that, I went through. Like those are the ones I faced the most throughout high school and like currently through college. And I feel like that's the same for you.
Yeah, pretty much.
And one thing that I picked up on really was, it's one thing to be cognizant while you're using it, but it's another thing to be aware of the full implications of it before and after using it.
Yeah.
Like realize, how are you feeling before? How are you feeling after? Was it an escape route? Was it a distraction? What did you use this purpose for? Be aware. And those are questions you should start asking yourself. For sure. I think those are questions I'm going to start asking myself.
Me too, man. Like, I 100% agree. Like just talking about awareness today made me more aware of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was in a little rut again I got my social media time down to an hour a day, and I'm like, oh, that's good enough.
Yeah.
But I don't think you should ever stop questioning yourself.
You should never.
Including, especially your intentions. I don't think you should ever stop questioning your intentions.
Renewing intentions, questioning intentions. It's something that's part of Islam. It's like every single step that you take, every single thought that you have, every single action that you do, there should be an intention behind it. There should you should
100%.
you should understand why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I going where I'm going? Why am I walking where I'm walking? Why am I existing where I'm existing right now? Just understanding, having that awareness, developing your niyyah, and inshallah, with the help of Allah, we'll all get through this, and we'll all get to a point where we're able to be aware of everything that we do, and that everything that we do is for the sake of Allah.
Yeah. I guess we just have to start holding each other accountable too.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, let's do it. Like
I'm down.
after like when you're sitting in a room, just remind me when you see me on my phone. Just
Yeah,
like,
me too.
What are you doing on Instagram? No, call me out. Be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you on that app?
Me too, bro. Like, get me. Like, honestly, I'm on Instagram so much. Like, you probably see me too. So just call me out.
Oh, I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna call you out. I'm coming after you.
Okay, I'm coming after you too.
I'm going for blood.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know today's was a little more deep of a conversation, but I think it's an important conversation to have, and I'm glad we had it.
Yeah. Another thing is we try and keep these conversations a little short. We want to highlight what we've been through and kind of bring it up to light. But a great resource, we keep mentioning it, is Yaqeen Institute. Yaqeen Institute is, whether it's their website, their social media, they're one of the best educational.
MashaAllah.
They have like an army of sheikhs, and like they have so many people who are so qualified, especially Imam Umar Sulaiman. And those are the people you want to learn from and like understand from. We're trying to spark the first initial questioning.
The curiosity.
Yeah. Like, you're not alone in this. And believe it or not, you can learn a lot from that one resource alone.
Yeah.
Let alone others. I just think that that is a resource that me and Brother Dean kind of connect with.
For sure. Yeah.
They talk about Islam in the modern day in a relevant kind of viewpoint. And that's the amazing thing about them. Yeah. So I highly suggest you check them out. They do have a social media section on their website, on one of their episodes series. I'll attach it below as well. That will talk more about it in depth. But
once again, we're not sponsored by Yaqeen Institute. This is just we just love this resource. It's something that even our community at USC loves this resource, and it's just something that we're always on. That's where we get our information, and it's just, alhamdulillah, like mashallah for Imam Umar Sulaiman and his whole team. Like, may Allah grant them rewards. All right, Jazakallah khair for listening and tuning in. I know today's was a little bit more deep of a topic, but it's an important topic, and we hope you all gained a lot.
Yeah, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Until next time.